Okay, so today we're going to be solving two-step equations. In order to solve two-step equations, we need to recognize two numbers. So I'm going to write down an equation, and we're going to identify what the numbers represent. Okay, so let's do 4x take away 8 equals 24. Okay, and maybe you can work your way and still think your way through to an answer on these. But like I said earlier, eventually you're going to get to a point where it's too many steps and they're done in so many different ways that you really can't look at it and do a mental math thing to think it through. So in order to solve it by uh, doing a process, we need to recognize two numbers. And the two numbers are the number held by this positive 4 here, and also the number held by, it's 8, but I'm going to think of it as negative 8 because of the minus. If it was a plus, I think of it as a positive 8. Okay, so this number here, we're going to call this a coefficient. Write that down. Coefficient. 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 And that number, you can always tell which one is a coefficient because it's either multiplied or divided with the variable. So you're always going to look to the letter, the variable. Okay, which number is associated with that? In this case, it's 4. It's either next to it, meaning multiplied, or underneath with a fraction bar, meaning divided. That's a coefficient. Okay. The other number is the number that's just either ahead of it or behind it, in this case, with a minus or a plus sign. This number. This is called a constant. A constant because it won't change. Technically, we have two constants. 24 is also a constant, but I don't really worry about that one because it's not as on the same side as the variable, because our goal is to remove these numbers so that x is revealed. So this is called the constant. So throughout the lesson today, I'm going to be asking which is our constant, which is our coefficient. Okay? So we got to make sure we know. The constant is always the number that's all by itself, not connected to the variable with a minus or a plus sign. Any questions? Okay, so there's some steps we're going to follow, and I'm going to write them down. So, steps to solve equations. And we're going to be adding to this list, above the list, things that we do before these two steps. But we're going to start basic. So, steps to solve equations. Steps to solve equations. Ta-da. Okay, step number one. Step number one has to do with a constant. We're going to add or subtract to remove a constant. Add or subtract to remove a constant. And the key word here is constant. So in this equation we have above us, the first thing we would do is get rid of the minus 8. In this case, we would add, because negative 8 and positive 8 will make a 0 and they cancel. Okay, so that's step one. Second step, we're going to multiply or divide to remove a coefficient. In the equation above, 4 here was our coefficient. So after we did step 1, we wouldn't have this. We would just have 4x equals whatever it equals after we do the plus 8. Then the next thing we would do is get rid of this 4, and since it's multiplying, we would divide by 4 to get rid of the coefficient. And you may be asking, well, wait a minute. In with PEMDAS, order of operations, I learned you have to multiply and divide before you add and subtract, right? Well, what we're actually doing is doing PEMDAS in reverse. We're doing the opposite of PEMDAS. And since it comes, multiplication and division come before adding and subtracting, we would flip it. Add or subtract first, then multiply and divide. Okay? All right. So those are the steps. Let me just... Man, that's a loud cart. Wiggle, wiggle, wiggle. There we are. Okay, our first equation that we're going to solve is 4x take away 8 equals 24. Not very difficult. Okay, and we already talked about the steps. Our constant is minus 8. So that's the first thing we do. We're going to add to get rid of the constant. Okay, here we go. It's minus or negative 8. So let's do the opposite. Plus or positive 8 on both sides. And let's see here. I'm going to go from left to right. 4x, didn't do anything with it. Just bring it down. Here we got minus and plus 8. That's a 0, no longer there. Bring down the equal sign. And then we work out 24 plus 8. 32, I believe. Okay. So we did that first step. No longer have a constant. Now let's get rid of this 4. Remember we said, what do? Multiply or divide to get rid of this? Divide by 4. So it's just putting together the steps that we did for 1 steps. So 4 and 4 cancel here. It's just x equals 32 divided by 4. The answer is 8. So our answer is 8. Okay. Let's try another one. Number 2. 2b, or 2 times b, take away 29 equals negative 49. Okay, write that down. 2b minus 29 equals negative 49. So we always look at, once you get to this point, decide, okay, which one is my coefficient and which one's my constant? Which one's the coefficient? 2. The 2 and 2b. Just the number 2. A coefficient's a number. So it's the number here because it's multiplied. So our constant is here. It's negative 29. Okay, let's get rid of that because we always get rid of the constant first. So should I plus or minus 29? Do that to both sides. 2b cancel, and then negative 49 positive, negative 49 positive 29. Well, I know it's going to be a negative because the bigger number is negative, and that's going to be what, 20? Check my math. Let's get rid of the 2. Again, it's multiplied. That's our coefficient. We'll divide by 2. Because this 2 and the 2 in the denominator We'll make 1. That's 1 times b, which is just b, which is what I wanted. And negative 20 divided by 2 is negative 10. Okay. Not too bad so far, right? Okay. This one's a little tricky, just a little bit. So this one is going to be 1 minus 4m. Remembering that the variable and the coefficient are always connected. Okay, so here we have 1 minus 4m equals negative 23. Okay, go ahead and write that down. Yes. Add here. Well, they're opposites. Think of it as adding integer adding. You're adding a negative with a positive. So same sign, add and keep. So if they were both negative or both positive, I would add. But when I add a negative with a positive, I actually subtract. And you keep the sign of the bigger number. So it's like owing $49 and you pay back 29. So now you just owe 20. So yeah, you got to be up with your integers. Okay, number 3. Remembering the coefficient is always associated with a variable. So which number is my coefficient? 4. In this case, it's going to be negative 4, but yes. So doesn't that make 1 my constant? It's all out there by its lonesome. So I want to get rid of that first. How do I get rid of this 1? True, but 1 plus 1 makes 2, and I want to make a 0. Negative 1. Because 1 and negative 1 makes 0. So here, I'm going to put a negative 1 also here. Okay? So now, let's see what we get. Well, we already talked about this. 1 and negative 1 make 0. It's gone. Bring down what's left. What's left is negative with 4m. Equals, well, here we're adding 2 negatives. So it's same sign, you add and keep. So I'm going to add those. That's 24, but I keep the negative sign. So it's negative 24. So now I have a coefficient of negative 4 and it's being multiplied. So let's divide. What should I divide by? Negative 4. So negative 4 divided by negative 4. Yeah, that's positive. So I get m equals, on the other side I have negative 24 divided by negative 4. And so I know 4 goes into 24 6 times. And negative divided by negative is positive. So the answer is positive 6. Okay. Go ahead and write that down. If you have any questions, let me know. Okay. 3 down, 4 to go. Ready to go on to number 4?
Yeah.
Let's do it. The next example is not going to look like a 2-step equation. It's going to look like a 1-step equation, but it is a 2-step, or else it wouldn't be here. Okay, number 4. Here we go. 2 take away c equals 9. 2 minus c equals 9. Now, which number is the constant? Yeah, 2 is the constant. It's separated from c. So can anyone tell me what's the coefficient? Well, c is a variable. It can't be a coefficient. It's always the number in front being multiplied. What number is actually in front here? 1. In this case, because of the minus, it's negative 1. Yeah. Normally, we don't worry about it because it's 1, and 1 times c is c. But negative 1 times c is negative c, and we don't want negative c. So, okay. Let's go ahead and get rid of the constant, though. We don't want 2. Let's put a plus 2 or minus 2.
Plus.
Well, 2 plus 2 is 4 minus. If it's positive, give it its opposite. So I got 2 and negative 2, which is what I want. That makes 0. But bring down negative 1c equals 9 take away 2, which is just plain old 7. So now, let's go ahead and get rid of that negative 1. It's being multiplied with c, so what do I have to do with it? Henry, focus. What are we going to do? How do I get rid of this negative 1, guys? Divide it. Okay, negative 1 divided by negative 1. Boom, makes 1. I just get c. 7 divided by negative 1. Well, what's 7 divided by 1? 7. So 7 divided by negative 1 is negative 7. All right. Okay. Let's see. Okay. So let's try this one. Number 5. So this one, I'm going to ask you to solve on your own. Okay. So here's what we're going to do. Everyone, give an attempt to solve this. Then you're going to work with your table partner. You're going to compare answers. So you're going to either do one of two things. Just show each other how you got the answer, agree or disagree, come to an agreement on that. Or maybe one of you got it, one of you didn't. Well, if you got an answer, explain to your partner. And finally, if you both didn't get it, see if you can put your brains together and answer it. Okay? Give it a try. Let's run through this. So, okay, let's focus back over here. So my constant is 38, so I'm going to subtract, or negative 38. 70 and negative 38 makes positive 32. This is negative 8x, so I have to divide by negative 8. 32 divided by negative 8 is negative 4. Okay? All right. Any questions? Okay, we still have a couple more to do, guys, so let's go ahead and focus on this. Number 6. Quiet now. 8 equals x divided by 9 plus 7. Okay? So at this point, we have the main part of the equation on the right side, which is a little different, but that's okay. We've done this before. Which one is my constant? Because that's the first thing I want to get rid of. Okay. So let's negative 7 on both sides. That cancels. 8 and negative 7, or 8 minus 7, is positive 1. And then we have x divided by 9. So how do I get rid of the 9? Well, it's already divided. It's yeah. Multiply. We're going to multiply. Since it's a division equation, we're going to multiply.
So we do the inverse of
Always.
Okay.
Yeah, since it's dividing, we're going to multiply. This 9 in the denominator, this 9 up here is technically in the numerator. They cancel. And 9 times 1 is just 9. And then we get 9 equals x. You can just as easily flip this around. And we get x equals 9. Okay. It's a little different. Last one. Ready? Okay, last one, number 7. So number 7 is going to be, scoot this over. Negative m over 7 plus 4 equals 14. Okay, write that down. Negative m over 7 plus 4 equals 14. So what's my constant number here? 4. So get rid of this 4. Okay, that's gone. I'm going to do something a little different. Now, on the assignment, you're going to notice the negative. Sometimes it's right next to it like this. Sometimes it's going to be up where the variable is, negative m over 7. Or sometimes, very rarely, it'll be here. So when I bring this down, I'm going to decide to bring this negative to the bottom. You always want to do that. Make it m over negative 7. You only just need one of them to be negative, and I'm choosing for the denominator because now I know I have to multiply, right? I know that now I have to multiply by negative 7. Okay, so first of all, let's see, 14 take away 4 is 10. And like I said, it's a division equation. I got to multiply. I choose to multiply by negative 7. Because negative 7 here, negative 7 there makes a positive. Okay, so again, this negative 7 cancels with a 1 down in the denominator, making 1. 1m is just m. And on the other side, 10 times negative 7, negative 70. That is our answer. Okay, so on today's assignment, I'm going to give you an assignment that's on paper. So, guys, real quick, I need to see the work. Otherwise, I can't give you any credit. So you got to show the work just like we did right now for each problem. So you're going to solve it. Then the directions tell you look for the answer up here as many times as it comes up. So it only came up once right here, the number 4. And there you put the letter P. So look for your answer up here and you write in the letter. Make sure you do that, okay?